Hi, my name's Phil. I'd like to talk about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the Internal Market Bill again. This is the bill that, amongst other things, seeks to deliberately break international law and show the world that our promises are worthless. It has passed disgracefully, of course, through the House of Commons and is now being considered in the House of Lords. And if the first day was anything to go by, it is not going to get further anytime soon. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, it was always said that this bill should not have made it through the Commons at all, but would not make it through the Lords. Sure, the government can force it if they are determined, but that takes time. It cannot be done by the end of the transition period. Not that this helps, because in purely practical terms, the bill will not become law this year, unless Johnson, of course, agrees to drop the parts of the bill concerned with the withdrawal agreement. But at that point, you know, the international community would also drop their objections. Now, if he does that, then the damage to our credibility abroad has already been done, of course. Everyone knows what the Prime Minister tried to do. Everyone knows he can't be trusted, even if he ultimately pulls back on the clauses. And if he doesn't agree to accept the removal of the clauses, then although, yeah, it won't become law just yet, he won't be able to act on it just yet, the world will still see a British government that wants to negotiate deals one day and then tear them up the next. Even if Johnson is replaced, you know, it's still hard to see the UK regaining credibility after that event. Even if his successor abandons the notion of not abiding by willingly entered into international obligations, because for that, they would surely have to also utterly condemn the actions of Johnson. They can't just not go ahead with them themselves. They have to actually condemn them very clearly. And that is impossible for whoever replaces him immediately in this Parliament, because not a single Conservative MP voted against the bill. Not even the most vocal in their opposition were opposed enough to actually walk out of the chamber and walk through a door to try and block it. And the likely leadership contenders actively voted for it. But damage done. It seemed that most members of our unelected chamber had to once again be the grown-ups in the room. A series of withering statements were made by pro and anti-Brexit peers alike. And in what is known as a motion of regret, the House voted by 395 to 169 to say, we do not go along with this bill. This is outrageous. It was a huge and decisive expression of opposition to the bill. It doesn't sink the bill in its own. I'm just going to go through a few of the things that some key people said. So as part of the proceedings, obviously, peers in the House of Lords, just like MPs in the House of Commons, will stand up and make a bit of a speech. And first of all, the peer who proposed removing the offending clauses, so there will be an amendment going through, Lord Judge, said this. Said, when those responsible for making the law, that is us, the Parliament, we the lawmakers, who expect people to obey the laws we make, knowingly grant power to the executive, that's the government, to break the law, that incursion is not small. The rule of law is not merely undermined, it is subverted. There is one consequence, and the damage is to our standing in the world. We have no real power now, except soft power. The English language and an understanding that we in this country have a traditional belief in the rule of law and we respect it. We hope that one day all the countries in the world that do not have respect for the rule of law will have it. Yet here we are, about to tear it into tatters. Our contribution to happier days around the world will be diminished. He's making the point here that the UK is no longer a superpower. The only power, the only real influence we have is to persuade others. That's it. And to do that, you have to be on fairly solid ground yourself. You know, I can't help, again, marvel at the concept. This would have been ridiculous to me 20 years younger. A situation where you've got the chamber that is full of well-off, unelected lords who are much more in touch with reality than our supposed common MPs. He notes that we do not have real power in the UK. That is correct. This soft power that he talks about, Johnson may have already cost us. When we try and impress upon other nations the importance of the rule of law, we will be derided as hypocrites. Not just the current government, the next government, the government after. That damage is potentially permanent. It's not just damage that Johnson's doing it himself, or even his government, or even his party. It's to our entire nation's place in the world. And he also said, we need to be careful to distinguish between the rule of law and rule by laws. It is the rule of law that carries us and gives us the protection that we need from the abuse or misuse of the constitutional power that is enjoyed by Parliament. It is our safest shield against authoritarianism. It is a phrase that was conjured up by the Commons for the first time in 1610 to tell an overweening king that he was seeking to exercise overmuch power. It is a phrase we should use to remind an overweening executive that they are going too far. Then we had former Conservative leader and Brexiteer, Lord Howard, had to say this. He said, together with the majority of those who voted in the 2016 referendum, I voted for Brexit. I do not for one moment regret or resile from that vote. In other words, he's still in favour of Brexit. I want the United Kingdom to be an independent sovereign state. However, I want it to be an independent sovereign state that holds its head up high in the world, that keeps its word, that upholds the rule of law, and that honours its treaty obligations. Then, on arguably the other side, a former Speaker of the House, another well-respected Speaker of the House, now Baroness Boothroyd. She was Speaker when I was much younger. And she was very, very critical of Boris Johnson and his leadership in general. And she said, I was elected to Parliament some 47 years ago and have witnessed 9 Prime Ministers tread the steps of number 10 Downing Street. However, never in my parliamentary experience have I witnessed such a collapse of the people's trust in a government who promised so much and so quickly, and who are now groping for desperate solutions to problems that they said would not arise, or if they did, could easily be resolved. Again, referring to the fact, this internal market bill, let us be clear on this, these clauses, they are a solution to a problem that Boris Johnson and those around him stuck their fingers in their ears over and closed their eyes to. They were told this last year and they said, no, this won't be the case. They said, it's in the withdrawal agreement. No. He says, but your own withdrawal agreement says, for example, you are going to have to fill in customs declarations for goods passing between Britain and Northern Ireland. No, and if anyone gives you such a form, you send it to me and I'll rip it up and throw it in the bin. And that is what this is. It is a clumsy attempt to try and remove a problem that they created and they refuse to acknowledge. Then she said, trust in this government, both nationally and internationally, is in short supply, but our parliamentary democracy has deep roots, and I trust that this House will defend our laws and traditions. Who knows, there is still time for yet another U-turn. One thing I am certain of, we shall not deserve our reputation and regain our self-respect until once again the world knows that our word is our deed and that we are committed to the rule of law. Now, as I said, it is important to note that this vote that took place yesterday is not a rejection of the bill. What is going to happen, of course, as normally happens, is the bill comes before them and amendments may be sought. I mean, sometimes the bill just goes straight through. It's like, yeah, this is fine. Away you go. Sometimes you scrutinise it and some peers go, oh, there's something not quite right here. We'll tidy it up a little bit for you. And they propose some amendments and it goes back to the House of Commons. That is what's going to happen here. But what the vote yesterday was an overwhelming statement that the House, it's a shot across the warning bars. They're telling the government, we are not going to allow this bill to pass through in its current form. They're basically saying to the government, look, let's do a deal here. These clauses cannot stand. If we remove them, is that going to be satisfactory to you? Now, I've noted before, the way it works with the House of Lords, because they're unelected, they don't put up serious resistance to government plans in line with their manifesto promises. You know, because you may be used to being in other countries where you have another chamber, of course, everyone has the equivalent chamber, that will make its own decisions on what it sees is best. Doesn't really happen in the House of Lords. They know that they're not democratically elected. So if the government is trying to pass something through, even if the Lords thinks it is damaging, much like the Brexit bill at the start of this year, for example, the Lords tried to amend that because Boris Johnson tried to change it compared with what he promised in the general election campaign. But because the withdrawal agreement bill itself was a main manifesto promise, they let it through. They allowed it through. They raised objections. The government said, no, we're going, it's like this. And they went, all right, fair enough. This is different. This is different because this bill seeks to break a manifesto promise, as well as causing an assault on our constitution. So as a result of this huge majority, it's certain that the offending clauses will just be removed. They won't be changed. They'll just be ripped out with bare hands. They'll just be torn out of it. And it may well be that some peers take issue with other parts of the bill, the power grab aspects of the bill as well. I'm not sure how votes would go on that one, though. I can say that these clauses will be removed that break international law. Then the bill will be sent back to Boris Johnson with the law-breaking sections at the least ripped out, maybe some other amendments as well, but those at least ripped out. He can then choose to accept it or send it back and say, no, I'm putting them back in, through again. Just like he did with the agriculture bill, that's going back into the Lords, and the Lords have again said, no, this does not protect food standards in the country. You need to rethink. There's a little bit of ping pong going on there. Eventually, the government will win on that. They may not win on this one. You know, because unlike the agriculture bill, it is possible that Boris Johnson, I mean, either he really wants these clauses, genuinely, and he doesn't care about breaking international law. I suspect that's not the case. Or, as he tried to allude to his own MPs to get them to vote for it, he's just using it as a bargaining tool. And by the time it's been kicked around by the Lords, it may well be he's got his deal with the EU, in which case he might go, well, we don't need the clauses anymore. Yeah, keep them out. It's fine now. It's fine. I was serious. I would have insisted on it, but there's no need for it anymore, so it's all cool. But there we go. We won't know that until or unless we get a deal with the EU. But there it is. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.